the hall at 3:30 in the morning to tell my dad that my mom had finally woken up and was asking for him. I know it's crazy. Mom's been in a coma since I was born. I literally put her in a coma, and she hadn't woken up once in 14 years. Until this morning, my dad burst into my room. I startled awake, and before I could even open my eyes, I said, "She's awake!" Before I tell my story, I just want to remind you to like and subscribe to My Story Animated to hear more craziness like what you are about to witness. At first, I thought he was talking about me, and I was about to yell at him for waking me up. But then I realized what he meant. My mom was awake. My mom! I never heard her voice in real life. I never seen her eyes look into mine. I've held her hand, but she's never held mine. She's been here the whole...
Hey guys. So, the weird thing that's happening here is his mom. Her mom has been,
time, but she has been so far away too. She had a complicated pregnancy with me. I was a stubborn fetus, I guess you could say. I decided that I wanted to come early, which caused a lot of issues for her, and she was rushed into surgery to get me out. She never regained consciousness after she was put under anesthesia, and because of her family's beliefs, my father never took her off the meds that kept her alive.
whoa.
I'd always had a feeling that at some point, I would have to be the one to end my mom's life. But thankfully, it didn't sound like that was going to have to happen after all. I bolted out of bed and ran to get my brother up. He was 2 years older than me, so he only remembers small fragments of Mom in real life. He remembers her singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star every night, and she made the best chocolate chip pancakes in the world. The sad thing is, he doesn't remember her smile or the way she smelled. So this day was the best news for all of us. My brother never said it out loud, but I knew that he blamed me for what happened to our mom. And to be honest, I didn't expect any less. He was nice to me growing up, but I always felt like there was something between us that wouldn't allow us to get closer. He hadn't forgiven me. Did you know the longest time someone has been in a coma was 19 years? Terry Wallace was in a coma for many years before he woke up on June 11th, 2003. The ride to the hospital seemed to last forever, and we all rushed in as soon as my dad got the car in park. Our happy reunion was cut short when the doctor stopped us outside of my mom's room. He had a grave look on his face. Something was wrong. "She wants to see Emma," the doctor said, and my dad pulled me forward. He said no problem, and tried to get the doctor to open the door. "No, see," the doctor started. "She doesn't understand that Emma is a teenager now. She thinks that she just gave birth to her several hours ago." I think all of our faces turned white. Of course, we had thought this could happen, but we didn't know what to do when it finally came to be. The doctor told my dad that he didn't want to shock my mother until we were all here at the hospital with her, and we could introduce me. This wasn't going to be easy, and we all knew that. I held my breath as my dad and the doctor went into my mother's room. All I could hear was some muffled talking from the doctor and my dad. Then my mom started to scream uncontrollably. "Bring me my baby!" I got goosebumps up and down my arms. This was probably the most afraid that I've ever been in my life. I was so afraid that my mother was going to hate me and that she was going to think I ruined her life too. I almost ran out of the hospital, but my brother nudged me forward. The door to the hospital room stood open in front of me, and I walked through. I had never seen my mom with her eyes open. She already looked so much more full of life than she had just days ago. "Hi, Mom," I said, twirling my fingers.
Like, being in a coma for easy, that much easier.
Imagine the places we'll go. Together. Dear.
Why can't there be no icon in place? Wait guys, I just want to do one thing. I forgot I had the face cam on. So I'm gonna turn my face cam on so you guys can see me better. There you go. Yep, turning on. I got always. I think my face cam is dead.
fingers through my hair. I did that when I was nervous. My mom was doing the same with hers, as she said, "Hi." My dad said that it was okay to step closer. I couldn't help but to start to cry as I walked up to my mom. She had the same hair color as me, and her eyes were just as blue. My dad had always told me I looked like her, but I never could see it until now. In that moment, I felt like my mom had come back from the dead. I knew she'd been here this whole time, but she was as good as gone. I touched her face, and her eyes lit up. It's like she knew it was me. It's like she remembered my soul when she carried me in her stomach. "It is you," she said, and she wrapped me in a humongous hug. We bawled together on the bed for quite some time. Then my mom pulled away from me and wiped her tears. "It's so nice to finally meet you. The last time I saw you, you were on a black and white screen," she chuckled, talking about the sonogram. "I've grown since then." And wrapped my hand around hers. Since Mom had been in bed for so long, most of her muscles were weakened. She'd need lots of physical therapy to get them back into shape. She wouldn't be able to leave the hospital for a couple of weeks, maybe even a month. And when she did leave, she would still be required to do lots of physical therapy and other therapies, I guess. Those other therapies would help her deal with all the time that had passed and missing out on our lives and things like that. The one thing we didn't know how to tell her was that our dad was remarried. We'd had a stepmom for the last 3 years. My brother and I had given our dad our blessing to start dating again after the 10-year anniversary of when my mom went into a coma. He'd been so lonely. He'd basically only lived for us, and having someone there to help with the kids would be amazing too. We decided we weren't going to tell my mom that first day. We thought it would be too much to add to everything else that was going on. On the ride home, my brother blurted out that he didn't think we should tell Mom at all. He thought we should make our stepmom move out, which I didn't think was such a bad idea either. Our dad wasn't going for that. He hadn't fallen out of love with my mom. He'd just become stagnant, and the fact that she was awake now seemed to be weighing heavy on his mind. He was silent almost the entire ride home. When we pulled into the driveway, I asked if he was okay. He looked at me with tears in his eyes and said he just didn't know what to do. We walked into the house and gave each other the biggest hugs. Our stepmom walked up and asked if we were okay. She knew what had happened and all of the craziness that was now going to continue. Except she thought that my dad didn't love my mom anymore and that they were actually divorced, when in fact, he'd never divorced.
Might be a bit bad, guys. So if you
Divorced our mom in the first place. This was going to be hell for sure. Later on that night, while my brother and I snuck down the stairway to listen to my dad and stepmom talking in the kitchen. "So what are we going to do?" my stepmom was asking. Meg was silent when she continued, saying that obviously we would need to contact my mom's family and have them help out. My dad said we were her family, and she would stay with us. My stepmom hated that idea and suggested that we get a hotel room for her until we could figure something out. That's when he dropped the bomb. "We're still married," he blurted. My stepmom nodded. "Yes, we are, and I have every right to see what happens in this house." He gave my stepmom the side eye and said, "No, I mean that I'm still married to her." "So we aren't even legally married?" My dad shook his head. I could tell he was crying again. My stepmom let out the biggest scream I'd ever heard. I think it blew out my eardrums. With ears ringing, my brother and I rushed down the stairs when my stepmom was slinging horrible words at my father, her face in a red rage. Her things were packed within a few hours, and she was off to her sister's house. I could tell my dad was her, but he looked almost relieved as well. By the end of the week, my mom was ready to come home. We set up the guest room for her, but we were surprised when she came in the house and went directly to the master bedroom. My dad didn't say anything, but my brother spoke up. He told her to put her things in the guest room. She looked hurt. "It's okay, Mom. You can sleep in the master bedroom tonight," I tried to assure her. "Tonight? It's my bed, my house." She looked confused and worried. And then she asked where our stepmom was. We told her she left, and I don't know if I saw relief on her face or terror. We all helped her get settled in the bed, and she took a nap while we discussed how we were going to introduce my stepmom to my mom. However, not long after, our stepmom came to the door and knocked loudly, waking my mom up. My brother answered the door, and in a hushed tone, he told her to be quiet. Just as the door shut again, my mom was on the landing of the stairs. "Everything okay?" she asked, and came down the stairs, coming face to face with my stepmom. Mom, this is Lisa, I said, stepping forward. Lisa crossed her arms as my mom put her hand out. Realizing that Lisa wasn't going to shake her hand, my mom put hers back at her side. She offered Lisa to come on in, and Lisa silently replied, I don't need to be invited into my own home. I guess it just shows the type of person my mom is, but she didn't reply with something nasty and rude. She graciously smiled and offered Lisa some tea. And she said, we can all call this place home. Lisa scoffed. That's when my mom almost lost her cool. Instead of flipping out and yelling at Lisa, she stirred the sugar in her tea and quietly said, you're not the one who had their entire life ripped away from them, so I don't know what you're so upset about. You're taking my husband away, was all Lisa could muster.
I bet that was the best time to pause. Like, it looks like the girl is really mean though. Why would you do that?
Nah.
Another football ad. God, you have to be kidding me.
Nope. Not tonight. That's it. My mom reminded Lisa that she had actually taken her husband away first. She also said that Lisa would grow up a little while she lay unconscious. That's when Lisa jumped up and spilled hot tea all over my mom. I quickly sprang into action, as did my brother. I grabbed a towel to help my mom dry off. Luckily, the tea had some milk and sugar in it, so it wasn't scalding, and my brother pulled Lisa away, shoving her out the door while simultaneously screaming for our dad. He ran down the stairs like lightning. What is it? What's going on? He asked. We explained what happened. Took off. I helped my mom upstairs, and we got her, and all we could hear was Lisa screaming my dad lied to her, and there was nothing he could do, hoping it would